So being an IG, as can be seen from many other sections of the book, can be a bit arduous. So one thing that can become an obsession for an IG is, you can imagine, if every time you enter the environment, you're basically being bombarded by stressors, more so than other humans. There becomes sort of like war zone mentality. The same kind of mentality you see overall in places where war is prevalent or stress is prevalent on a mass scale. There becomes a psychology based on that, and often it's a psychology, what I'll call the Doctrine of Directiveness, which is that you must be putting flags forward, you mustn't mess up, you basically must be on point, and if not, you're going to lose your place in the flow, you're going to get run over, you're going to get lost, left behind, taken over, mistreated. So Naiji can actually be feeling that so strongly, and that's basically their Daryu, that they can't hear the signal they need to be hearing above that of their other, which would teach them about the other aspects of life that they need to be fulfilled. They're so bombarded with what their conscious powers must deal with that the idea of adding anything else to the plate seems crazy. In fact, suicidal. There's a feeling of physical or metaphysical suicide to actually quote-unquote indulging more adaptive ways, more relativistic ways, things of that nature, which is the right side does. It's more accommodating. It's more accommodating, and it's more relativistic. So in war zones, it can be felt that if one is accommodating, one will be taken advantage of. And if one is relativistic, then one does not have like a cohesive band for which to push back all the other aggressive bubbles. There's basically an idea, there's a basic idea, which is not true, that all bubbles around you are aggressors, which is actually very, very limited in thinking. That's emergency thinking, because your other offers so many potentialities for yourself, but also the other as represented in the environment, which are basically bubbles you don't have. So there's a war zone mentality that bubbles you don't have are bubbles you don't want. That's the basic mindset, and basically you just need to secure the little patch of niceness that you have, your tribe, your family, your business, your country, whatever, but it's some form of us and them. And so when this us and them mentality kicks in heavily, see the Naiji other is much more inclusive, and she's the one, or he, depending on the Naiji, but the one who entices the Naiji to use the model to get as many people as possible, because the Naiji by nature is more paranoid of fucking up themselves and other people messing things up. So it becomes a paranoia of no one must mess up. And then what happens is we see a phenomenon we have called affectionately here marrying your hunting partner. So basically you have your hunting buddy, but your hunting buddy is going to probably be an IG or maybe an IZ or maybe a Jinai, and wanting to keep that hunter strength or fighter strength on all the time, and feel that if one is not hunting or fighting, then one is a coward or prey. That's sort of the psychology. It's like a real disconnect from the right side of the brain. Now, the particular danger in this is that Naiji tend to be very formidable in general, and when you pair two of them together, you're going to get a corresponding amount of formidableness, because there is the augmentation connection. But this brings up, people ask about the relationships romantically. There is a rough layering system. The worst is suppressive, which is actually hooking up. It doesn't mean marriage; it can just be intense, relationship, romantic-wise. But one who has a polar power, that's actually as their source power, that's going to be suppressive. That's the worst. Then the fourth and third tier are partitioning and compensating. So basically, having to do lots of workarounds knowingly, or partitioning, you really don't even know you're doing it, but you are. The top two, this is crucial. The top one is inspiration, which for an IG would be a Nijai, with the near inspirationals being the Jai Ni and the Nizai. However, the Another Nai Mojo, another Nai Ji or Nai Z or Ji Nai would be a very strong augmentation relationship, which is the second tier. So it is very powerful, but not as powerful and as fulfilled as you should be, not even close. However, because Nai Ji are formidable normally by themselves, and then when you add two of them together, that's going to be uber formidable. It's like a detective team. That can be very, very impressive. And a crucial part of that impressiveness is the Naiji's scope is going to shrink dramatically. The Nijai other, or the Jaini or Nizai, their powers would cause the Naiji to expand their scope. So now they're going to shrink it. But the reason why this can be such a problem, and it can be related to the sway over bubbles, is within that shrunken bubble, the Naiji will very likely be extremely dominant, will be extremely successful in those waters. And so it can be difficult to convince that creature that that's not the point. The point is to expand those waters. But they can take it as the idea is to be complete and total master of the waters I swim in and make those borders the size I can do that in. And then when I hook up with other people, they need to all be hunters too, including your significant other, including maybe children or other relationships that may not be the ideal, or at least not all the time. So when this happens, there will be a increase in formidability often in Daryu kinds of things, but not in other. Where it gets particularly dangerous and difficult to persuade people who are doing this sort of Nai Mojo power couple thing is that there often can be Fumasta, because Nai Alpha, Nai Ji are very good at actually becoming sort of like leaders, like teachers or politicians, and where they have sway over people's lives, the way they think and the way they conduct themselves. So you put the two of them together, they might actually go very, very far in a lot of upper end careers. So not just, yes, they can actually take care of business in a war zone together, you know what I mean, but they can actually also do high level engagements. So that a lot of people at the highest scale, we're actually talking about like very successful people, very rich people, very developed people may actually be envious of that. So they're mathematically, once you can read Mojo, and Mojo journalism will come in and show this, they're clearly missing what they're supposed to be doing. But if that's not pointed out, if you don't have a way to note that they're missing certain functionality in their life, they and their psyche don't have connection with it very well, and they don't have good connection within their environment, there's going to be a great loss. It's a loss of the way things are supposed to go, and it's not a complete story for themselves or anyone else interacting with them. However, it can be a very dominant worldview, even though it is a lopsided one, and that's the issue. Going double directive actually has a tendency to actually make you successful at being lopsided, which is unhealthy. Successful at being unhealthy, and that's the real danger of that, as far as why people have a hard time breaking out of it. The overall danger is that they become actually weaker as people as far as the development they're supposed to have, because at the end of the day, you do have to go with how developed you are. That's your whole point in being here in this world. It's the whole point for everyone. So if you are divorcing yourself from actually 4 of your powers, and you're not seeing that as being as valuable as it should, and you're not spending a great deal of your energy actually trying to honor and respect that, so that your other gives you more and more gifts you're supposed to have, then you're not doing it right. No matter if you're whooping everyone. And that's something that overly directive Naiji, particularly the ones who have kind of like gone like everyone should be directive, everyone should be like me, is the one to challenge everyone to a contest to show that that's why you should listen to them. And that's why Podlair will be very necessary to actually hopefully enlighten these hard-ass Naiji, overly hard-ass Naiji, because they will need to be demonstrated through math, through forensics, through journalism, that they're not winning. Because if you cannot convince them that they're not winning, they will continue to do this strategy. And so that's a big part of what Mojo journalism will be doing when it comes out. As many tasks it has to accomplish, but that is actually a significant one of them, is redefining what success is. Because until that is redefined, there is going to be an overall doctrine of directiveness in the whole planet, and then directives will naturally think everyone should be directive, and anyone who's not directive around me is lessening my game, bringing me down, when actually no, they're actually making you more whole, but you're misinterpreting that.